Hey, I'm Scotty, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to sketch hands. It's one of the most challenging parts of sketching people, and although I'm not a hand sketching expert, I've developed a really simple way which I think will help you. So before we go into my simple process, I wanted to go through some of the basic proportions and things to keep in mind as you sketch hands. So one of the most important proportions is the general size of the hand. So we have here in this template my general proportion. So the back of the hand there, you can see that shape on the back of the hand is about the same length as the length of the longest finger. So it's like there are two tapered squares. But what if you're struggling if your hands are too big or too small for your figure? Well, here's a little proportion that I keep in mind. If you've drawn the face first, which we usually do in a figure, we draw the head first, about from the nose to the chin, that's 1/3 of the face, is about that same size as the back of the hand. So sometimes I double check that. I'm constructing the back of the hand first, and I just check, I have a look at the face and see if that is about the right size. So that's the basic proportion of the hand. Now let's talk about the curve of the fingers. So in this template here, we can see that the ends of the fingers all have a curve connecting the tips of the fingers, as well as the joints in the middle there. So it's important when you're drawing the fingers that we notice where that little finger is, and it creates that curve. They're not all the same length, obviously. And then that brings us to where the thumb is. So on the side of that square on the back of the hand, we have a little triangle coming off there. And that's where we can put the thumb on. And sometimes it's hard to know how far that thumb comes off the hand. Well, so I usually follow that curve of the joints in the middle of the fingers and come around to that point. And when the hand is closed, the thumb comes to about between that knuckle and that joint there, somewhere in between there. Okay, and then if we're drawing the fingers, how do we draw those? So in this template here, you can see the shape of the finger. The general shape that I use is a tapered shape. You can see here where it's connected to the hand, it's slightly wider than the tip of the finger. And it has a nice round U shape on the end. And then if you look at the finger from the side in this reference, so the top is curved down and the bottom is curved out. That's just generally what I keep in mind when I'm sketching the finger quickly. So I'm going to now show you two really important methods that work with my loose ink sketching style. We'll do two larger hands where we outline all the fingers, and then we'll do one example that we have for a very simple hand. Sometimes they're very impressionistic because they're very small. And of course you can use pencil here, then go over the top with your ink pen if you like. Okay, we're going to start with a nice simple example here. So we have the top of the hand with the fingers splayed out. And the first step is I like to find that shape of the back of the hand. We start with 4 dots, like that, just getting the approximate shape of that back of the hand. You see that there? And this width here is a bit wider than at the wrist. So make sure that's there and have a bit of an angle on both lines. Now, next step is to outline that back of the hand. So it might already be an arm coming there. But in this case, we're just drawing the hand. And we leave a gap for that thumb, and we remember that there's a triangle on the side there. So I'm coming out a little bit, and then this way, like that. We'll leave a gap there and we'll add the thumb in later. Now we have to divide this bit of the hand up so we know where the fingers go. So what I do is I add 3 dots. So between those 2 points of where the knuckles are, there's a curve there where the dots go. So we go right in the middle, up a little bit. That's where that middle split is. And then between these two, put another dot there. And then between those two, put another dot there. And they're approximately the same width apart each finger. Now to get the length of the fingers, we know that this back of the hand is the same length as the longest finger. So I can get that length and approximately put a dot out there. That's the longest finger there. Now I like to put dots where the fingers are on each point, and they come down a little bit, dot there, and then come down a little bit, so dot there. Make sure you got an angle. We can see that curve happening, and another dot out here for that finger here. So it should be a nice curve on those dots, and that helps position the fingers for us with this more detailed hand. Now let's add the ends of the fingers. So they should be narrower than this gap here. They come up, we just add the little end, the little U shape, like that. I've got one here, and one here, and the last finger here, in the end. Okay, I find that easier than drawing the fingers out to the dot. Now we can just join each part to the back to the hand. And this is just a loose line. You can make it follow the outline of the finger there as you see it, but I just draw it quite straight, making sure there's a taper from thin to a bit thicker. These are simplified hands, and there's a bit of a width there too. You don't have to come to a sharp point. Okay, using my concentration. Like that. Okay, then we've got four fingers, and now we have to draw the thumb. So we noticed on the template that if we cross those joints and we come to there, that's where the thumb is there. But as the hand changes, that thumb just changes position. So a lot of this is knowing some of the fundamental proportions, but then you have to apply it just from observation. Let's draw the end of the thumb there, like this, on there, and then back to that point there, and there, like that. And then we have our hand, and we can also add the arm there if we want to. So that's the outline of a simple hand, but we need to add a few little light details. So pressing lightly with our hand, with our pen lines, just add some of these fingernails, and they're just hints. So don't outline them like a big circle, just a little, mostly focusing on this back part of the line there. And then you can add where the joints are. So do 2 lines like that, and then pretty much in the middle of each finger. And then where the knuckles are. And these are set back slightly, so set them back just here. And on this hand especially, you can see there's some tendons, so you can come back from those knuckles and add a few lines there like that. Or creases where lines like this, and so it's just whatever you think is important to that. There might be a line coming up here where the thumb is. Okay, that's our first very simple hand. How did you go with that? Is it easy to follow those steps? Now I'm going to go on to a more complex example, using the same technique and applying the structure to this hand. So this hand, it has a sleeve, so I might actually draw that first. Coming out there and just guessing where the hand will come out, and then it's a nice big sleeve like this. And the hand comes, we're drawing the hand out there. Okay, and then the next one, the line will come about there. Okay, so that's our arm coming to the wrist. So we have 2 dots here, and then we draw the other dots. You can see the knuckles have a great angle there, so I have to consider that. So I've got that dot nicely positioned on the back of the hand now. Draw that, and then this side of the hand like this. We've got that tapered shape. Now between these 2 dots, you can see here that this, even though we usually arch them like this between there, because of the shape of the hand, this is going to be closer to this dot than this one. So it's sort of arching out and leaving that width of the finger. So we still come about halfway here between them, but instead of going back here, we go a little bit more angled this way. And here, so it's similar, but this dot here is just a bit further out. Now to get the length of this first finger, look at that length there, and come out that same length, and tilt it down a little bit. Just got a limp finger there, so come that down about there. And then the other fingers, so in general they come out about that same distance there. So I'm just looking at that distance from the wrist to where the dots are, coming about there. So it's about the same distance down to here. And I'll look at this first finger, put a dot there, and there's another finger a little bit lower, dot there, and then another finger here going up. So there's like a U shape of dots there. That's where those fingers are. So with this kind of finger, with this kind of hand, we just have to guess, and then we're adjusting as we go. So let's draw the end finger like that, and then here we're trying to get the angle that the finger is, so we're going back a bit this way, and this is where we're just going to have a guess at that and position the fingers as best we can. And the little finger angles back this way. So this is where you might use pencil if you're not sure, you have a go. Now we've got the lengths and the proportions, we can add in the fingers. So if you want to join this up and it's a bit of a bend, we can actually put a dot here. So you go up and then down, like that. So let's join this finger here. And as we said, we sort of go bend it down, get to that point, and then bend it down again. But then on the underside of the finger, we have it bends out away from the finger. Like that. And then, so a few complex things here. We're bending out slightly, but we're also getting thicker to thinner. So there's a few complex things with these fingers. Now from here to here, we need to have a bend. So we've got this finger going out to there, and it comes around like this, down, and it goes into that finger. It's the same, trying to go taper it from thicker to thinner, like that. They're not perfect, they're just supposed to be very loose. I'm trying to do them slowly so we get the idea here of the technique. And then we join that up. So I can see I've drawn these a little bit too long here at a guess, so I might bring them up. This is where I show you how I might adjust some mistakes here. So what we can do, if we did those wrong and you haven't used pencil, you can get something like a Posca pen, give it a good shake, and cover those up. So just put a bit of Posca pen white over these lines. And the next detail here is this thumb, the thumb coming here, so add that in there like that. You can see a little bit of it behind. And there we have the hand. That's a very tricky hand. Now we can put the details, so the end of the fingernails here might help show this direction of these fingers too. The joints, this one has one a bit further back there, and here. And then the knuckles, this really helps describe this hand. So we have a knuckle line here coming up from this line like that. There's one quite far back here too, and here. And there's also a shadow here just where that bone is there, so I like to do that sometimes. Not as many lines on the back of the hand. I'm going to continue to do a few more examples of these bigger pages for Patreon, so if you'd like to check out the full tutorial, that'll be over on my Patreon page. So the next technique for sketching hands is really important to have when you're sketching figures and your hands are very small. You might not have the space, or it might be too fiddly to do all the technique of working out all the fingers. So for a figure like this, he has a small hand, you might have drawn the whole figure and you're coming to the hand. How would you sketch this? You might be drawing the hands very, very small, but I'll draw them a little bit bigger so you can see it here. But if I had this hand here, I would start with that same shape on the back of the hand. I would draw the two lines there like this. And I'm looking, instead of drawing the dots, I'm just drawing the back of the hand there like that. The angle, looking at that tapered shape where that width there is a little bit wider than here. And then I can see that the fingers, they taper back in there. So I'm tapering back in. I'm just looking at the silhouette, and then they go up like that. So I'm just outlining this shape, and the top finger also tapers in. So you can see there's a taper on the side of the hand and to this side of the hand. And we come and we draw the end of the finger, just outlining that finger like that. So we've got a simple outline silhouette of the hand. And then in the middle here, we can put those dots in, just to see where the fingers would be. So we've got a dot in the middle, dot on each side, and then instead of tracing the fingers, we could go over them depending how big they are, but you can even just add in a simple line towards each of these dots like that. So just going up like that, adding a line like that, adding a line like that. And at a very small scale, might be a lot smaller than this hand, that is almost enough just to draw the hand. You can add a little bit of a dot there just to show where the knuckles are. You could add a little bit there, but that's what we're looking for. That would come down. And there's the sleeve there. That's a very simple way of drawing a hand. So that's how I sketch hands in a really simple way, both with outlining the fingers and then a very simple silhouette. If you like the full tutorial with all of the different examples and painting it in with watercolor, I recommend you check out my Patreon because I've got the full tutorial there. Plus we have the references which you can put on your screen, and it's much easier to sketch that way. And I have these templates that you can download and keep, which will remind you how to approach hands. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.